Shalom. Yahweh Shem Shai Barakatah. Yahweh Shemata Bashem Shai. We are the Isupk, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We're here to teach the truth of the Bible for blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, the real history according to the scriptures. Today's class, of course, we're going into the Hebrew today, being the Friday San Antonio Hebrew class, the Isupk Hebrew class. What we've been going over the past few weeks is the alphabet in both the ancient, the ancient and the Assyrian Hebrew. Okay, and then we're going to start going into some other topics, but we are going to brush up on the alphabet here because we got brothers that are studying this right now. If you're going to be an officer in the ISUPK, you should know both of these alphabets right out the gate. You know what I'm saying? At any point that you should be able to read Hebrew based off of the understanding of how these characters are pronounced. So we have them written the full alphabet's written right here. We also have them written here on the side. That I don't ever really erase, but I have this written here so that we can review them. All right. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick look at both alphabets. All right, and then we'll get into the topic for today. All right. So starting with this one. All right. So we have. Go ahead. And we're just going to go in order. So we have a little bit louder. Right. Abagada hawaza. Right. That's how we started off. Abagada hawaza. All right. Keep going. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a cha. Right. Mm-hmm. Ta. Mm-hmm. What's this? No. Kataya. No. This is na. Goes over here. This. Nope. This is la right here. This is ka. Ka. There's this ka, which is the ka that you see if the letter is used anywhere other than the end of the word. And then you have the end ka, which basically looks like a longer 7. Again, some of these end variants for the Assyrian Hebrew, we have to remember that it basically goes, it's a longer character, meaning it goes beyond the line. Like if we were drawing, if we were using like a, what do you call it, notebook paper on it, it goes beyond the bottom, like the letter Y does in English or the letter G does in English, where it goes beyond the bottom. Is that my car? She has the key. She should be all right. All right. So so we have ka, and then what do we have here? Mm-hmm. Another way that you may see la, when you see it on applications and text, it may look like this, which is very similar. This is just the formal way of writing. All right, now what do we got next? Ma and end ma, right? See the difference? Ma also sometimes looks like this. Sometimes it looks something like that, right? All right, now the next letter. Mm-hmm. You say what? And end na, right? All right. So na and end na. Now it's important to know these because what we're going over today, we're going over the nations in the Bible. And when we go over them, it's important to know how to pronounce them. It's also important to know how to spell them in both Hebrew alphabets, right? The next series. So ada hawaza chataya kalama na. And now we have this one. Mm-hmm. Pa, exactly. And then we have en pa, right? Which is basically, it looks very similar to ka, but it has a little hook that looks just like the regular version. Then we have Tazah, right? In Tazah, which looks like a backwards Y. Okay. This was like a regular Y. Now again, because these two look very very similar, how do we actually draw these different? As we see this one curves and curves. For this one, we probably curve in and then go straight across and then add the rest of it. It's important to know the difference because that could get you mixed up. Don't pay attention to the difference. You see how I looks? I is a curve while comes across and over, and then it goes almost like an hourglass, right? So think of it kind of like that, Tazah. All right, and then what do we have? Qua, exactly. Qua, when you see it on certain applications, it may not have the flare at the end, so it may just look like a P almost. Hmm. Exactly. Ra, and then we have Sha, exactly. Sha, and then of course the final letter is Tha. Yep. So Tha is going to be the last letter. Now this is the exact same alphabet, but in the ancient Hebrew. Okay, the ancient Hebrew is simpler because there's no end variance. Every letter is just the exact same, and a lot of these letters to modern variants of them. Now we're going to go through this again. Go ahead. Ga, da, ha, ta, ya. Ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa. And taza, qua, ra, sha, tha. Now, it's important to know that these two alphabets look very different from each other in most cases. There may be some examples like sha that look similar, ra kind of looks similar, right? But for the most part, they kind of stand alone by themselves. Some of them may even get you mixed up, like in the ancient Assyrian, I looks like a circle, but Sa kind of looks like a circle. So we don't really associate the way they look with one another rather than the way they sound. So it's important to actually know these things. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll try a couple practice drills. Now, is I'm Assyrian, and then and I'm gonna give you a random character, and I want to see how fast you can write them down in both versions. If I say Ka, well, then you know you have to write the Ka in the ancient and then the Ka in the Assyrian, and that's how you complete one round, right? So Ka, and that's it, right? Of course, we're not going to go. I mean, you could go even farther and put the end Ka variant if you need to. That actually makes sense too. So you should definitely do that. If I just throw another one out there, let's say right? Qua looks like this in the ancient Hebrew, but it looks like this in the Assyrian. You see how fast I'm able to do that? That's just because of repetition practice. I should be able to interchange the characters on the fly just from hearing them. You understand? So what I'll do is I'm gonna give you the chance. Go ahead and put your food down, and you're gonna come up here and we're gonna practice. And I'm gonna give you a character, and you just have to write the Assyrian version and the ancient version. Try not to look over here. Honestly, you can if you need. It's just gonna affect how long it takes for you to write it up here. So the idea is to practice getting to know the characters just from here, just to be able to hear it and write it. Yeah. All right. Your first letter is Ma, Assyrian and the ancient. Well, that's the idea. The more that you see it, the more that you'll remember it. So go ahead and write them both down. Practice the way that you're writing them too. You want the handwriting to be decent as well. That's the you have that you're going in with the you got to flip it around. Yeah, that's the ancient. Remember, the ancient's on the right, Assyrian is on the left. Try again. Yep. Now, what's the ancient version? Okay. Go ahead and erase that. All right, let me get the letter Ah. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can erase that. Next one is Sa. Remember, if you don't remember it, you can look at the chart, but just know that you know, this is why I'm practicing it. Now, the Assyrian looks mostly correct, but it's not an exact circle. What is it missing? Yes. Okay. All right, that's Sa. Go ahead and erase that. Give me Shah. That should be an easier one. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's it. Just W. They look very similar. All right, that's good. Go ahead and erase that. We're not going to go through the entire alphabet, but I'm giving the other brothers a chance to see this. If they're watching, they'll know what to expect. You're actually the first person to ever done this. I might actually have you test me also, so I can show you. Next one is Ha. Syrian on the left, ancient on the right. Yep. Nope. That is the ancient version. Not quite. Uh-uh. That looks like Ha to this kind of puts you on the spot, but what it does is it makes you sharper with it. Because usually it's backwards where we see the character and then we say it. But when we're doing here is we're hearing it and then we're writing it. You see the difference? So it kind of gives you a full rounded understanding of the character, helps you remember it. Assyrian, Ha, what does that look like? Yep, without the connector. So it's really just a matter of repetition. You'll remember it. All right, go ahead and erase that. All right, now we're gonna do Ta. Not quite. That looks like ma. Remember when we were going over the characters, Assyrian Hebrew, the letter ta, what did we associate it with? Toast. Toast. It looks like a piece of toast. That's close enough. And the ancient Hebrew looks like a target, right? So that's correct. Go ahead and erase that. One more. Let me get the character tazah. Yeah. I'll let that go ahead. That's good. Go ahead. What's this ancient version of it? Taza. And that's why we got to practice it. And you see the difference there? Because the idea is to have it imprinted in your mind to where you can remember it all sorts of ways. Now it's your turn. Go ahead and give me a couple characters and I'm going to write them. Nah. Not also sometimes when you look at it on the app, it just looks like a really long line. But the formal version actually kind of looks almost like a question mark, like this. Nah. But this is also acceptable. You can also write it like this. Okay. So any of those will work. Go ahead. All right. See that? On both of them. Okay, what's the next one? Ka. All of us are going to be able to do this. That's why I'm showing it to y'all. Actually, as a matter of fact, we're going to start off every class by doing this. We're going to start off every class, and that's going to make brothers want to be prepared because you're getting put on the spot. All right, what's the next one? All right. Is that right? There's the ancient, there's the Assyrian. Just in time. And put them down. So what again? What we're showing you? We're showing you that in order to learn Hebrew to make it fluent, to make it flow in any kind of form that you either hear it, see it, you know what I'm saying, or in this case, writing it, it's important to have it down pat in multiple ways. Whereas when we study the alphabet, when we go and we practice and we're saying ah, 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 and you go to the next letter, ba, ba, ba. Same thing in the Assyrian Hebrew, where we're going like this, ah, 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 and then ba, ba, ba. Shalom on Christ, ba. Like that. The reason why I say it's important for you to say it, though, is because of this drill that we're doing right now. Keep going, copy. Qua. So qua looks like this in the ancient, and then qua looks like this in the Assyrian. All right. And that is why when we're writing it, when we're practicing it, I'm also saying it while I write it, because then When I hear it, I'll know what it looks like immediately. Go ahead, keep going. We'll do 2 or 3 more. Go ahead. An ancient looks like this, and then Tha in the Assyrian kind of looks like a dog a little bit, right? Well, go ahead. Ka, like Ka or Ka? Okay, so Cha looks like a ladder right here, and in the Assyrian, it looks like a table, right? So this is the drill that we're doing, Taziar. We're gonna have you come up here too, because I already had him do it, and I'm doing it right now just to give y'all an example of how this goes. But you'll be next, right? What's the next letter? Yeah, in the ancient looks like this, and then in the Assyrian it looks like this. Go ahead. We did Qua already. Yeah. Remember? You said I, and then I. You see how effortless it has become for me? But that's just because what I'm saying, I've at least known of the characters for almost a decade. But you too can move fast with it just from the way that I was showing you before and how we practice it. Let's do one more, and then we'll give you another chance. Za, za. Okay. I'm not doing this to show off. I'm just letting you know this is going to become second nature just from the way that we practiced it, the way that I recommended for you to practice. It'll help you get this sharp with it. So that again, when we're in the Sabbath service, you'll be reading these characters and you'll start to fly through them, especially once we start to get into the prepositions, possessive adjectives, things that modify characters, and also understanding root words, which is something that we're just going to have to really grind through to learn over time. Okay. So again, you're come up here, Copier, and yeah, you're gonna try it again. That way, Taziar can give it a second to settle in, and then you'll get a chance to redo it. All right. The first one, and remember, if it's the Assyrian, I need both versions. Okay. The in version also. That's what it says. Hmm. Say what? Now, I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose to make it harder for you to copy it because for the ancient, over here it's on the left, over here it's on the right. I did that on purpose. First character is nah. Yep. Now the idea is to not have to look over there. That's what you ultimately you don't want to rely on that. Nah. Give me the Assyrian version. Okay. What's the end version? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now what's the ancient? You could look if you need to, but everyone's gonna see that you're looking at it. Because you're on camera. Yeah. All right, go ahead and erase. Give me the character Ga. He said, that's different. We didn't even use that one yet. So you haven't had time to see it. But that's why when you study, you'll see it. Just because you pass your officer's test doesn't mean you got to stop studying. That's actually when the studying really begins. God, yeah, God kind of looks like like one of them, on Men in Black, those little crazy looking skinny aliens. They look like one of them walking, right? And in the ancient, it just kind of looks like a crooked seven. You could draw that a little bit better. You don't have to go ahead and erase. All right, give me the character Tha. Mm-hmm. And the Assyrian, and then in the ancient. The reason why I say you're allowed to look is because when I was in school, the best way that I learned was to see the answer and then understand how to get to the answer. Some like when you're at home and your parents was trying to tell you to do your math homework, they didn't help you. They just said figure it out and then just threw you into the pit. And if you didn't get it, then they would yell at you. But that's not a good way to remember because you're just wasting a lot of time struggling and not knowing what to do. It's a different type of writing. Try starting from the top and going to the right. Yeah, like that. Let me show you. That way we don't get it mixed up with anything else. This is how I write it. You don't have to write it like me, but if you want it to look like it does on the test, the best way to do that is to curve in, go like that, and then give it the dog his other leg. It's like a dog basically. All right, now we're gonna go with Ra. Mm-hmm. Ra. Ra in the Assyrian. Remember, it's simple. It already looks like an R, right? Okay. Now in the ancient. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's it. Almost like some people draw four like that. Yeah, like a four. But that also looks kind of like a R backwards too. Go ahead and erase that. We'll give you about three more, and then Taziara will give you the chance to try. Next character is Wa. Wa. Let me get the letter Wa. Yeah. Nope. That would be I. How does Wa look? And now, of course, Wa is probably the most used character when we're reading during the Sabbath service. So you know what it looks like. No, that's Ha. I need one of them beepers to go, right? Assyrian, Wa. It's a lot more simple than you think. And you already know what it looks like. It's just when you put it on the spot, it kind of gets you stumped, right? Why? Try it in the ancient first. Sometimes you might want to start with the old school version. That looks good. Yep. You keep practicing like that, you'll have it down in no time. Mm-hmm. Why? Syrian is what you see during Sabbath service most of the time. Well, I mean, they pronounce it as Yiddish. We pronounce it as the ancient, so it's still ancient for us. Assyrian, I mean, that's like that. Yeah, it's important to not have too much of a straight edge across, because when you see it on the well, he uses the iPhone, so it does look like that on the iPhone. But on the Android apps, it's just a straight line. That's it. Which is weird because Yah is just a short line, and then End Na is a long line. So it's important to know that. That's why I'm saying get the character drawing right so that you can know the difference. But again, like I said, you're used to seeing it like that, so that's perfectly fine if you want to draw it like that. All right, last one. Give me Za. Yep, Za. Nope, that's Sa. I'm talking about Za like pizza. Yeah, like Zabalawan. Because when you're doing your hold on, let me see real quick. That is incorrect. Yep. Now, what is it in the Assyrian? Assyrian. What does Za look like? That's it right there. That's it right there. Now, before Taziar comes up, I'll let him see some examples. You're gonna drill me one more time with the questions. You just go ahead and ask the questions, and I'll make sure to answer them. As a matter of fact, Taziar, you ask whatever character you want. I'm gonna write it. Yeah, any of these characters. No, just pick a character, and then I'm gonna write it in both versions without looking at this. Yeah. No, just pronounce it. Like say, yeah, any of them. Because I'm gonna do the same thing to you. You gotta see which ones you need to see right now. Sa looks like this in the ancient, and then the Assyrian looks like that. Okay. Taza right here. Taza right here. Taza end version, right? Because if there's an end version, it's going to need that also. Okay. Go ahead. Ka in the ancient looks like a backwards K, but in the Assyrian it looks kind of like this or this. Or what? This is how you get sharp with it. This is how you make it. This is how you take it back, right? This is how you, because it's our language. We got to know it's front and back. You know what I'm saying? From hearing it to seeing it, doing all of that. We're doing drills like when we're doing the drills like this, the way you were doing in your notebook now. This is why I say it. Ah, because you're doing it like that. But then the second that I say, okay, write the character you'll already know because you're used to hearing it when you say it and when you write it. So keep going. Give me another character. Okay, so ancient Ta looks like a target. Ta looks like a piece of toast, right? Boom, just like that. Go ahead. Which one? Ha? H-A, right? Okay. Ha. That's what we're practicing. But what's tricky is that we have to do both alphabets, right? But I should be able to switch between one and the other on the fly. Kind of like how you're able to switch between English and Spanish so fast because you're used to them. So we're building that arsenal basically. Keep going. You just gotta pick ha. Ka. There's ka, and then you have ka in the Assyrian. Is that right? That is true. It does look like a pi symbol. I always say it looks like a table, but that actually is correct too. It does look like that. All right, let's do one more, and then it'll be your turn. Hey, that's why I'm letting you decide which ones to write because you're going to be the one to be writing this next. Fine, we'll do 3 more. Yeah. Okay. All right, what's the next one? Okay. I. All right, one more. Ra and Ra. Right. Now, like I said, when we're practicing, you got the answers right here, so you can look. I'm not telling you that you can't. Just know that if you know it, you'll still be faster than if you're looking over here. Plus, the camera's going to see you looking at it anyways. So that's why we're practicing it because it's one thing. Like I want to be able to say, okay, write the whole entire alphabet, and you'll know the ba ga da ha wa za. Because when we do the drills, we're always doing it in the same order. But what if it's thrown out of order? Well, that's important to know because when you're starting to read the scriptures during Sabbath service, I mean, you're getting all kinds of characters thrown at you in random order. So why not get used to that now and be comfortable with both versions? Exactly. I'll try to keep it. We'll start with the. All right. It's all about practice, right? Give me the character Tazah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I need a Syrian. And now you can look at the chart because you still need to practice writing it. Assyrian Tazah. Both versions of it too. Yeah. Now, what's the end version? It's right there. Mm-hmm. It's like a backwards Y, right? Now, keep in mind, and this is, I always want to just remind folks too, because for the sake of your, you know, plagiarism, no, how do I say it? Your legibility when you're writing, all of the end variants have a longer stroke at the end, except for ma. Ma is just a square, right? But when you're doing like a taza, pa, ka, na, all of those are a little bit more exaggerated because when you're writing it in, it's like you can exaggerate. You got plenty of board space to write it, right? Because it goes beyond the mark. It goes beyond the line, and it's important to remember that because when you're seeing it on the app, go ahead and erase this one. When you're seeing it on text and anything like that, go ahead and erase that. That's good. That's very good. I'm actually just starting with your name. Give me the character Y. No. Yeah. Ya. Slake. Close this. Keep this closed. Ya. Ya. It's actually one of the easiest ones. Ya. Like in Yahweh or Taza Yar. That's the first thing I did when I got my Hebrew name. I learned how to spell my name. You got to know that. Now that is correct, but that's not the ancient. If you need to look, you could look. The cool thing is the audience can see the answers. We got 2 people watching. Shout out to those in the chat. Go ahead and check in if you want to check in to get credit for class today. Yeah. Not quite. It's like a ZF. Yeah. That's yeah. Mm-hmm. Assyrian. That was correct. Yeah. So that's the way the Assyrian looked. Back up a little bit because Tazier, tell me when that glares out the way. Is it good? I mean, copy art. My bad. Well, now. That's what I'm trying to. I want to make sure we can see what he's writing. Okay, go ahead and erase. Yeah, write them larger. Write them much larger so the audience can see them better. All right, last well not last one, but if we're spelling your name, we did the Taza, we did the Ya, now we need the Ra, right? So give me Ra in both versions. Yeah. Ra. Ra. I'll give you a hint. They actually look a lot like ours, but they're backwards. Ra. Ra. There you go. Now the Assyrian. I'll beat that car in a race. Perfect. Perfect. Regular character size. That's good. Now, and I say that to say this. Did that exactly correct. But you see Ra, damn near looks a lot like and Ka. But remember, the difference between Ra is that it's a regular character size, like it's the same size as this. And Ka is exaggerated, where it goes across and then goes down with a longer character stroke. Okay, so go ahead and erase. And now we're gonna get da. Perfect. All right, and in the Assyrian, da. Okay, go ahead. Nope. You started off right, but remember, da, da. I'll give you a hint. So da almost looks like you're drawing a gun. Yeah, in Assyrian. Look at it. That's not a gun. Nah. Look at the chart. Look at the chart. There's no shame in it because you still need to practice. You see it? Man, I can't even. You gotta write a little bit deeper than that because I can't see nothing on the screen. There you go. Da. Oh yeah, definitely use the red. Or if you want to use this blue one, see if this one's any good. I don't know if that one. I think that one's starting to lose its juice. So yeah, you can erase it. All right, let me get la. Yep. Mm-hmm. La. You could write it however you normally see it. Doesn't have to look exactly like that one, but that's perfect. That's right. Go ahead and erase. We'll do one more. No, two more. Let me get the character Shah next. Mm-hmm. Shah. They look very similar in both versions, so this one's a little bit easier. Shah. Think sharp. Think teeth. Shah means. Go ahead. There you go. No pressure. You got 3 audience viewers watching. Assyrian, I know. It looks just like it. It's just a little bit more structured, right? Not quite. You have the idea. You see it? It's like it looks like a candlestick, but it's got like some pointy, teeth on it. There you go. That's it right there. Yep. Go ahead and erase. Oh yeah, the music notes. That kind of does look like that too. But go ahead and erase. We're gonna keep trying. Let me get the character, and again, I need the end version also. Ma. Yeah. Ma. Ma. Remember, audience, if you're watching, you have the entire alphabet in both versions on the right side of the screen. They're trying to do this without looking at it because they're trying to memorize the alphabet. Yeah. There you go. That's it right there. Go ahead. What does Ma look like the Assyrian? The Assyrian. Make sure the audience can see it because your head's blocking the camera. Go ahead. Ma and the Assyrian. There's 2 versions of it. They're very similar. Mm-mm. Let me help you out. Because this one's actually here. Let me see. So Ma, the Assyrian, has 2 very like almost like a rectangle, but with a handle. But that also rectangle without the handle for the end variant. Yeah. The thing is, though, where's the eraser at? The thing though is when you see it on the application, like when we're using, of course, and for those of you that are just tuning in, we use the Bible Hub app during Sabbath service, and it looks different on Android than it does on iPhone, right? But on the Android, it may actually look like this. You've seen that, right? That's Ma. But these are actually the same thing. They're just a different, style, basically, right? All right, you're good. You can have a seat. Now, give me a couple more to test on because I want to give you the chance to at least see a couple more examples before we move forward. Okay. Any of those characters? Go ahead and which one would you like to see next? All right. So you have nah, nah, and then nah, which is just like looks like a wah, but it's just a longer stroke, right? It also can look like this too, almost like a question mark. Okay. Ben? Ah. Okay. Go ahead. Ya again, the ya is a small letter. Compared to all the other characters you see, ya is a very small. It looks almost like an apostrophe. So when you see the Bible Hub app on Android, wa looks like, and I'm just giving you all this so that people could see. This is how it looks like on Android. And na looks like this, wa looks like this, and then ya looks like this. You see? Does that look familiar? Remember when you when we're reading Sabbath service, when we're reading during Sabbath service, you see those characters, but the official version of the Assyrian is like this. That's your formal. This is your type version, and then you'll kind of see how the iPhone kind of does its own thing. It's kind of like that or whatever. But all right, let's get another one. Okay, so you have la. La, almost like a heart, right? For love, but that's kind of gay, so we don't mess with that. But go ahead. Yeah. La. All right, what else we got? See if you could try to stump me, right? Okay. That's it. Once you have the whole alphabet, there really is no way to stump you. Go ahead. Ka. Oh, you said ga? Okay. So ga looks like this, and then ga looks like this. Right? Kind of like a stick figure snake, but with legs. Right? Ga. All right, we're good on that. Let's go ahead and get to our topic because was class is an hour and a half long. What time is it right now? That was time 7:52. So we have about 30 minutes. Now, what we went over about 2 or 3 classes ago is we went over the 12 tribes for the test, right? But then another very important part of the test is the 18 nation or the nation. And on the test, it goes in exactly the order that we're going to go over them. So when you're writing these in your notes, then you want to write them in this exact order. So Israel, of course, is our first one. Israel in the chapter. Israel in let me see. It's in the ancient Hebrew. using the same characters we've been using the whole time. We're going to do the characters for Israel. We know Israel is what? How do we say it in Hebrew? Okay. Keep going. Yashar Allah. So when I connect them, that's how you know that they need to be connected. Yashar Allah. Yashar Allah, which means Prince of the Power, right? And in the Assyrian, you're going to write it Yashah. You're going to have a Ra, okay? And you're going to have a Ah, and then La. Yashar Allah. Now, we don't care how the Jewish man pronounces it, because they pronounce it like Yashar or whatever, right? They have a different system because they have vowels in their language. These characters, for those of you that are tuning in, all of these characters are consonants. Even the I, even the ah. You know what I'm saying? There's no vowels in the most ancient form of Hebrew. So when we pronounce these things, Yashar Allah, that's all consonants. And how do you know that? Because when you say the Most High's name, right, Yahweh, there are no consonants here. I should be able to write them in both versions with no effort, right? That's Most High's name in both the ancient Hebrew and the Assyrian. Yahweh, Yahweh, using the same characters we had just been drilling for the hour. Okay. Now, Israel, Yashar Allah, Yashar Allah. Now, on your test, you're going to need to know what chapter this shows up in. It shows up in chapter 25. Well, something like that. This is when Jacob was introduced into the Bible. So Israel is Jacob's name that was changed too. And that is in chapter 25. My apologies. Let me be more specific. Genesis 25. Right? Genesis 25. Do you have that written down? Basically, what you'll need to know on the test is the nation in English dash ancient dash Assyrian, and then the chapter, or book and chapter. Also introduced in that very same chapter is the adversary, right? Edom. If this is the grand story of the entire planet, you got to have an antagonist, right? And that antagonist has done his part. Adawam. Adawam. So that's Ah and Ma. Not to be confused with Adawan, which means Lord, but Adawam means Edom. That's the ancient version. And you're going to have the Assyrian version. Okay. Now, again, because we're using a Ma, here's Ma right here, because this is the end variant, this looks more like a square. Adawam. Adawam, that's Edom. In the ancient and then also the Assyrian. Technically, you can shorten that a little so that it looks the same size as the other characters. And Edom is introduced in Genesis chapter 25. Why? Because his predecessor, Esau, was born. Just like how Israel, even though we don't necessarily read about Jacob having his name changed to Israel until a later chapter, I believe, the character, his story began in Genesis 25. So that's why on the test it says Genesis 25 is when Israel was introduced in the Bible, even though his name was still Jacob at that point. So that you can go to the test and then you can see what nation the Bible is starting to deal with, and then you can go to the origins of where that nation started by starting with the chapter that's mentioned on the right side. You understand? So we have Edom. All right. How are you? Everything. Let me see how your notes are looking, because I know you got the test with you right there. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Now, if it helps you to remember, use the connectors. I mean, I use the connectors. Even on the test, I wrote the connectors. Technically, you don't have to, but it helps you remember how to pronounce the name. Adawam. Because you see how when we have a curve down, that means this character is isolated to its own pronunciation. But when you have one of these joining marks right here, that means that you're joining the beginning of this pronunciation with this character. So if this is ma, but because we're connecting these together, that's wam. So we're cutting off the, you know what I'm saying? Well, you obviously know that, but those of you that are tuning in the chat, y'all are seeing this. You may or may not have seen that, so it's important to see that. Adawam, right? There's Edom. They're connected, yeah. hmm What are you saying? Right, because like if I say Adawam, I didn't say Adawama, but because the wa and the, then I'm cutting off the ma so that it's the end of the pronunciation. So the sound that it makes is actually the end of the sound of the word. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to just say it, but without seeing examples. But we're going to see plenty of those examples as we go through our notes here. So the next one is Moab. When we read in the Bible, Moab, they're the progenitor of the what's the word? We know that they're the Chinese, right? Moab. And I don't mean Moab meaning mother of all bombs, like when Trump dropped that bomb on Afghanistan. Moab is the biblical name of the nation that we now know today as China. Oh, God, I can't remember the name of what it is that they're called. I'll have to bring that up later. But wa Abba. Now notice none of them are actually joined together. Every character is pronounced by itself. Mawa'aba. Mawa'aba. That's the pronunciation. Notice that I'm not actually writing. This doesn't go on the test, but this is how you pronounce it. Wait. This is the ancient. Remember, because when we were doing the drills, I had it backwards so that you weren't able to just easily cheat right here. But on the test, ancient is first and then the Assyrian is second. So we have ma, we have wa, we have and then we have ba, right? Ma, wa, aba. And I'm just kind of putting it here to help you pronounce it better. Ma, wa, aba. And it is perfectly okay if you write your ma like this. That also is acceptable. I'm just letting y'all know. Go ahead. What are you looking at? Oh, no, I did make a mistake. I did, because this is that's the Assyrian For some reason, I had that in there. See how it's the same over here? Here we go. The water for catch. Oh, Ava. No, that's absolutely right. Now Moab is introduced in the Bible when the sisters slept with her. Also in your notes, and just like how you see on your, what chapter does Moab get introduced in the Bible? Mm-hmm. Say what? Oh, you have the. What are you looking at? Oh, yeah. That's why I always try to show you different variants of it, because it kind of does look different depending on what app you're using or what operating system you have. But if you understand the basics of it, it's easier to remember it. Now, why is Moab important? As prophecy unfolds, Moab is who we know as the Chinese, right? Yeah. Have you ever studied the history of Moab? You ever seen the movie Ip Man? Ip Man? The Chinese were actually afflicted by the Japanese in the early, like before World War II. You know, um, so but at the same time, they were very focused on martial arts and things like that, um, more hand to hand combat rather than with ranged weaponry. So their specialty came into play during, I forget which dynasty it was, but they definitely fought to build their empire as it is today. They always had a totalitarian government. Nowadays, they're seen as communists because they have Xi Jinping, who is basically telling their citizens things like, "Oh, you can only have like, what is it, like one or two kids?" I think it's one kid. That's what they said. No, I thought it was only one child. Because if they like, I don't know if they changed it, but I remember them saying something like, "You can only have one child." So a lot of them would refuse having a daughter. Like if they find out that they're having a daughter, they would get like an abortion or something. Just, it's crazy because there's billions of them. So Moab is important because there's more of them than anybody else on the planet. There's billions. I think what, like 2 billion. So like a fourth of the planet's population is Moab, and they're all in such a small. Well, it's not a small country, but the inhabitable places in China is a very small portion of what the landmass actually is. So they're running into air pollution. They're running into overpopulation, and what does that lead to? It leads to conflict because they want to spread out. If you played any kind of war game or any kind of simulation where an army to have too big of a population where they're at, they need to spread out so that they can take resources in other places. And this is why the Chinese army is in the South China Sea right now, trying to gain a foothold over Thailand, trying to gain foothold over the South China Sea. So much so that they even built an artificial island to land their planes to operate their navy bases and their military right in the middle of the ocean between China and Japan. Because it's like, y'all ain't gonna punk us like y'all did in the early 1900s. They're not gonna do that because China has so many people. And the crazy thing is, while our children are learning TikTok and playing Call of Duty, they're over there learning astrophysics and aeronautics and things like that. So a very worthy adversary these Chinese people are, because they're going to be a vital part of the end war against America's army. Because you think Russia's any kind of dangerous? I mean, we've seen them struggling in the Ukraine. China has a lot more intellect, a lot more practicality with modern weaponry and technology way more than Russia. In fact, Russia is catching flack right now, and China is catching flack right now because China is offering them, drone technology and weaponry. And so NATO is pissed off about that because they're helping them out just a little bit, even though NATO's been throwing the Ukraine tanks and jets and ammo and hell, even mercenaries, right? So who's the hypocrite? Well, obviously there's a lot of, and Moab is a big part of the end war. So of course Moab is going to be an important part on our test as well. Who else is next? Somebody that's very kin to Moab. Ammon. Ammon. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah. I. Mawan. Remember on your test. Let me see. Yeah. On your test, you have to remember that because this is the end variant of, look, so Imawan is pronounced Imawan. Imawan, right? Now in the Assyrian, you have to have the end variant, right? So here's the connector. Imawan. That kind of looks like a Ra. Let me shorten that up. Now it looks like a Wa. Because again, Wa is just kind of curves straight down pretty much right away, while Ra kind of goes over and then curves down. So I just want to make sure that y'all see that. So I'm a one and na is a longer. It looks like a Wa, but it's just longer, right? Another acceptable way of writing it is like this. And you know what? It's perfectly fine if you draw it like that because na looks like this. So it's easier to remember the end na if you just, you see what I'm saying? But when you see it on the app, it's just going to look like this or it's going to look like this, depending on which app you're using. But I'm a one, this is acceptable, and it's just a longer note right there. See that? I'm a one. The Japanese were actually more militant than the Chinese up until the early 1900s, and up until, of course, Esau went and devastated them with Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But they're also a part of the end war. Why? Because they're the exact threat to China more than even the U.S. because they have a long history of fighting each other, though they are kin to each other. Because in the Bible, when it talks about Ammon, that is also introduced in Genesis chapter 19. You see? Ammon and Moab and the Koreans, they are actually all of the same family. So technically, Korea is of China / of Japan because there's a lot of mixing that has happened. So now people tend to say that the North Koreans are actually more so Chinese because they're closer to the Chinese government. But the South Korea, which took up democracy in their way of life, they actually are more akin to the Japanese in most cases. I'm not going to say all because obviously if you had to go through the genealogy, it would be a huge mess and only the Most High would be able to sort that out. But if you were to sift them out, they would go to either China or Japan, either Moab or Ammon, right? And Ammon is important because after they got nuked by America, they're the same ones that end up teaming up with America. Now, they even have F-35s. They bought, you know what I'm saying, of course, everything other than, I think, nuclear weapons. I don't think America has sold them nuclear weapons. And I don't even know if Japan is a nuclear state. That I'm not sure. You could Google that. I don't know. But one thing I know for sure is that they actually share a lot of the technology with America because this is the perfect example of Revelation chapter 18, where it says, come out of her, my people, And then it also says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Because Ammon fornicates with Babylon. Japan fornicates with America's lifestyle. Of course, they have their own lifestyle with anime and all that kind of stuff, but their market is like you don't ever see Japanese people wearing samurai clothes anymore. You see them wearing suits like white people. You see them conducting business for Nissan and Toyota, Mitsubishi, PlayStation, Sony. You know what I'm saying? Because their commerce is across the whole world. In fact, the most popular video game console series, other than Nintendo, which is also Japanese, PlayStation, is made by Ammon, right? They make billions and trillions of dollars in that industry because they flirt with Babylon. And in doing so, their men have become effeminate and their population decline is worse than it has ever been. In fact, the Japanese have been losing twice as many people as that have them been given birth. So their death rate is twice as high as their birth rate. And what does that mean? That means war is going to come soon. Because something ain't right. And they're going to start pointing fingers. And when the end war really starts to kick off, Ammon is a part of the end war because they're going to be going against their kindred, Moab, in the end war. All right. Genesis 19. You want to make sure to remember that too. I don't know if we have time to go over all of them today, but we're definitely going to get into a couple more of these. Ishmael. Ishmael. Yes, he was. They definitely have. Now, how do we pronounce Ishmael in the ancient Hebrew? Nope. Mm-hmm. Yep. So put them together. So it's my, because these are connected. Yashamai Allah. Oh. Yashamai Allah. Of course, Ishmael being Isaac's brother, older brother actually, was not given the covenant because of who his mother was, right? Abraham, who had slept with, what was it, Egyptian, I think? Isn't that what the scripture said? That he had gotten with an Egyptian to have Ishmael? I think it was an Egyptian. So because that's not who God wanted to deal with, he didn't want to deal with the lineage that came from him. So Ishmael, while as blessed as he has been, the scripture says he is a wild man. In fact, I remember there was this one class where I went in and talked about Ishmael a little bit, where the Arabs out there in Saudi Arabia with all that oil money, they would drive their cars sideways on two wheels and balance it. Like they would drive it sideways on two wheels while they're standing on top of it and making, like, you know what I'm saying, Arab rap music videos and holding AKs out the car while all their homies are in the car trying to balance the car. So, like, they're wild, bro. Like, they will blow themselves up in the middle of a marketplace just for a rock. You know what I'm saying? They'll go to a place where they'll circle around a rock and pray to a rock and kiss a rock, you know, and pray to it like 5 times a day, because that's what worked for them. That's what worked for them, because the Most High gave them their inheritance where they were going to be a very fruitful nation as well. But another thing that's interesting too is that Ishmael, coming from the same father of that Isaac came from, there's going to be some similarities there, right? And so when you look at a lot of the people on that side of the globe now, you have all different shades of people. Matter of fact, if you read ahead and you're going to read in the Sabbath service in the upcoming days, who did Edom get his first wife from? Edom. Edom had gotten his first wife from one of the daughters of Ishmael, which is why when you look at some of those Ishmaelites out there, there are ones that look like Turkish, that are white, that are considered Muslim. You understand? Go ahead. Esau. Because remember, when Jacob was told to go and marry, was it Rachel? We're going to read this in the upcoming Sabbath services. Because we're going to get into Genesis 27, 28, and 29. And you're going to see this. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Where Esau, he saw that Isaac told Jacob not to marry the Canaanite women, to go and find somebody else from the family. He ended up getting, what was it, Laban's, was it daughter or sister, daughter, I think. So Ishmael, he ended up being the one to go, and he saw that his dad said that, so he didn't go to the Canaanites to get a rib. He ended up going to one of the daughters of Ishmael to get a rib. And so there's no it's no coincidence that Ishmael now has all shades of colors of people within them, because there's been a lot of mixing going on, right? And so that's why a lot of them look light skinned. There's ones that are darker skinned. I mean, there's all over the place. Israel kind of is of the same thing, because we have lighter skinned tribes as well. But really, what it come down to with Ishmael is that he was introduced Genesis 16, I think. Genesis 16. Yeah, you just texted me the Hebrew. Ishmael. So you'll have that written in your notes. Go ahead. You have two eyes there. Yasha, my. You could get rid of one of those. Are you just trying to see which one it was? Yasha, my. The eye. You see how there's two eyes there? You can get rid of one of them. Where they originate from, for the most part, yeah. Why do I say that? Because the scripture says that Israel would be sifted from all nations of the earth. Now you have Levites that were slaves that were transported to England and France. You have, Aztecas that were taken to Spain. Male servants that were strong and able to work for them, that maybe went and found something to get into and, ended up having kids. Their lineage may have existed. But it's not up to us to go over there and then act like they're all Israel, like the way the IUIC goes to Africa to try to assume that all these people down there are Israelites. It's not really feasible to do that. You know what I mean? But to be sifted from the nations is something that we're all going to be done. That is going to happen. Our scripture also says to test the spirit too, whether they be of the faith. because that kind of goes more into the aspect of whether or not they're going to accept the truth. Because I'll tell you right now, somebody that is not of the nation of Israel is not going to go through all the effort to learn Hebrew and learn the scripture breakdowns and pay attention in class and do the officer's test if they're not an Israelite, because the scripture says, and Christ said so himself, my sheep hear my voice. This is not something that the other people are receptive to. So in that sense, it's not necessarily about color. And even geographically, yes, that helps you give an idea of where the markers are, where people originate from and what tribe they come from. But it's not the end all be all as to which tribe they're from, or you know what I mean? So there is a little bit of leeway there. And there's the things that we are a little bit in the unknown in that sense. But because we come into the school and learn these things, we learn the basics, we learn who we are, we learn our tribe, or at least as we try to be as accurate as we physically can, right? So that's the idea. And there's Mel. What time is it now? We got a couple more minutes. We got about 5 minutes. I want to do one more, and then we'll end it on that, and we'll finish this up next time. Because the nation is just as important as it is as the 12 tribes of Israel, because on the test, the nations is number 12, and then the tribes is number 13. And it takes up most of the second page. So it's very important to know this. And this is why I tell you it's very important to first learn the alphabet, because you can't do the back side of the page without knowing the alphabet. So last one we'll finish off today is Elam. I think it's Iwalam. Let me see. Yeah, it's Iwalam. Ayala. Oh, I said Iwala. It's Ayalam. My bad. Ayalam. What were you saying? Yeah. What? Because it's like training. Well, I'm just glad that I can structure this in a way that helps you, get it all. Because learning on your own is easy. The scripture says, necessary patience in seeking the Lord is greater than he that leadeth his life without a guide. Meaning that if you try to do this on your own, you're going to run into struggles. You're going to run into pain. You're going to run into mistakes. But because brotherhood is a weapon, having somebody that has kind of laid the foundation work and also learned from other people, like, did y'all see, I want to think of a good example. Did you see General Mahaiman's class on Thursday? Yesterday. Y'all saw it? What did he say? He said, I'm a creature that Commanding General Yohana created. Right? That's crazy. I mean, when you think about it, that's heavy. Go ahead. And you wouldn't be the way you are now. You still be that shy kid that couldn't even raise his voice, didn't know how to yell. Yeah. You know what I mean? You become a different creature in the school, and really what it is it's ultimately not us that's creating you, it's the Most High that's creating you. It's just that we're just carrying on what we've learned from people that have made us the way we are. You know what I mean? So this is a spiritual thing. Even just learning the alphabet is spiritual, because when we were in school learning these things, it was annoying. But when we come in here and learn these things, you learn to love it. You may not fall in love with it at first, but then you start to realize just how important it is. And then you start to own up to it. And then you start to take it. And then you start to appreciate it. You know what I mean? And those are the things that change you. You knowing your language changes you. You know what I'm saying? You knowing who you are and your identity and where your family comes from, and knowing more than your parents that were not given the truth, who are going to come to you for questions and to come to you for comfort when everything really starts to fall apart. That's where that creature that we created starts to really take form, because you start to lead. You know what I mean? But that's just, well, I mean, it all goes back down to Genesis 1 and 26. That process is still going on. Let us make man in our image, right? And who's the Most High talking to? He's talking to his military, he's talking to his host, and he's telling them that we're going to be created to be righteous and to follow orders and to have discipline. And it all starts with us locking in and learning these things. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is. Is it's a process that started from the beginning of time, and here we are, generations later, dozens of lives later, having to come back over and over and learn from our mistakes. To now we're learning this, and we're finally starting to get it clicking. You know what I mean? We're finally starting to really see it for what it is. And that's what the ISUPK is all about. Is about reawakening those ancient people to come back to their heritage, that uses the oldest language on the planet, that uses the most pure customs on the planet. You know what I'm saying? We got the Feast of Purim coming up. Speaking of pure, right? We got the Feast of Purim coming up this Tuesday. Does everybody know how they're going to get there? Does anybody need a ride? Not going to be able to make it? Just call Officer Dawadar. Either let him know or see what can be done. If you can call in that day, do it. But if you feel like you absolutely can, with like you're gonna get fired if you don't make it, I mean that's up to you. You know what I'm saying? It's up to you. But we're all just trying to, we're gonna go out there to Killeen to support our brothers that just built their initial school building. You know what I mean? Like how we did all that fireworks stand stuff because we wanted to get a school here. They had been working their tails off to build a school over there. So we're gonna go over there, support them, celebrate, the Feast of Purim, and we're gonna chop it up like that. Now, again, nobody's gonna hold your hand and force you to go. It's really up to you to decide what you're willing to sacrifice to just be present. You know what I mean? That's really all it is. It's just we give you the option, we give you the opportunity, and you take that opportunity to do things like come to class and learn the Hebrew, or come to class and get scripture breakdown. You know what I mean? So it's really just a matter of time before you really start to lock in and get everything that you need, because you're going to start to prioritize this over a lot of other things. You know what I mean? Is that the 6th? The 6th? Now we got. Hey, call Officer Dawada, confirm the date, because it obviously is something that we should have already had written in stone. Just get the well, whatever day it is, that's the day I'm going. That's kind of why I like my quote unquote slavery is a little bit more lenient right now, so I can take off whenever I want to. I can go on vacation whenever. That's one thing that I like about what I'm doing, is because if I buckle down and just grind, I could do that. But I'm doing that now so that I can chill when I need to. You know what I mean? But with that, again, Elam, Elam, that's the Syrians. It is. I want to say that's the Assyrians. You know what? Finish it off like this. Go ahead and come up here. Write down Israel on the board. Yeah. There if you need to refer to them, but go ahead and finish that, and we'll end the class on that. Yashar Allah. Yashar Allah. We just want to make sure there's room because you have to write it 2 times in two different alphabets. Yashar, get Shah in there. Mm-hmm. Yashar, which means the Shah and the Ra are connected. So you need a Ra after that. The connector. Mm-hmm. Now you just need Ah and La. Other way. Yeah, other way. Write that the other way. No sweat. And then La. There you go. Yashar Allah. All right, now in the Assyrian. Now this is the, yeah. Oh, you're getting ready to see a whole lot of that because that's going to be in the upcoming chapters we read in the Sabbath service. Yashar Allah. So you see it now, you already know how to say it. Yah. The little tiny one. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. Looks like a rake. And then the Ra. I mean, that's correct. I'll take that. But you just in the future, make it more curved and rather than sharp. Yeah, the reason why I say is that way you don't get it mixed up with some of the other characters. Yeah, it doesn't need that dip. There you go. Perfect. That works. Yashar Allah. Yeah. Okay. All right, and then the La. That'll work. Draw a dash in between both of them. Yeah, because when you write it on the test, it's going to be Israel dash Yashar Allah dash Yashar Allah, and then in parentheses Genesis 25. That's exactly how it's going to look on the test. So go ahead and just draw the dashes just to get used to it. Yeah, because when you look at your test that you have on your chair right there, you're going to see it's going to look exactly like that. And what I want you to do is the way I'm teaching it is not even like that. It's like let's do this. Israel dash Yashar Allah dash Yashar Allah. Genesis 25 is where the story begins for that nation. All right. Well, Zion Christ, go ahead and have a seat. We'll go ahead and call it. All right. And with that, we had ISUPK started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We're under Commanding General Yohana, here to teach the truth of the Bible for Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, their real culture and history according to the scriptures. And with that, shalom.